Hello, I'm Jeremy Nicholas, and this is the After Dinner Show. And it's a bit of a special one tonight because usually I have guests, and tonight I decided no guests. I'm just going to talk for a bit and not as long as usual because today's the 17th of June. It's just gone 8 o'clock UK time, and I have just watched my first live football match for 100 days. And boy, was it exciting. It was Aston Villa 0, Sheffield United 0. Although Sheffield United scored a perfectly good goal that went over the line, but the goal line technology failed. And for some reason, they didn't use VAR. It doesn't matter if you don't know what all that means. It was just exciting. And I got 27 points on fantasy football. Yay. I'm very excited about football coming back. And I thought, and there's another, the second game is Manchester City against Arsenal. And that's coming up at 8:15. So I thought what I'll do, rather than have guests and miss all the excitement, I will just do my own little show in this little window between 8 and 8:15, and then I'm done. Because I am an after dinner speaker and I'm not used to having guests, am I? When I do speeches, I usually just talk. I just stand up at some golf club or some bank or somewhere and I go, blah, 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 here's a funny story. And then people go, oh, very good, very good. Very nice whiskey tonight, Abelard, by the way. Right, so I'm just going to do some football stories, and then I'm out of here down to watch Manchester City against Arsenal. If you don't like it, complain to your member of Parliament or Marcus Rashford, whichever you think is the most effective. What a great result for Rashford. What a nice kid as well. He's only 22, and he's got the Prime Minister eating out of his hand. Right, okay, so my first ever football match was Cambridge United 0, Northampton Town 0. So that was exciting as well. My family's from Cambridgeshire. When I was 6, we moved to London, but my first ever game was Cambridge United, Northampton Town. It was 0-0. And I remember driving home in the car with my dad and Uncle Peter, and they were laughing and saying that Cambridge had had a good result, but it was a shame they'd been held by the Cobblers because it was 0-0, and Northampton Town's nickname is the Cobblers. And I didn't know why that was funny because I don't know how old I was, but maybe 8 or something. Anyway, that was, I just thought, I want to know why that's funny. Why is Cambridge being held by the Cobblers funny? And of course, you know why it is. So let me just tell you some stories about my time. Well, you see the background there. That is West Ham United's old ground, the Boleyn Ground. People used to call it Upton Park, but that was the tube station, really. It was really called the Boleyn Ground. Because there was a rumor that Anne Boleyn had a castle there, even though actually the castle that was there was built after she died. It doesn't matter. And also it was called Boleyn rather than Boleyn. But anyway, I used to be the stadium announcer at this beautiful ground. I got married at this beautiful ground, not the Olympic Stadium where West Ham play now, which is awful. This lovely place. It was a cauldron of noise. And I was the stadium announcer there for 16 years. So I'll just do a few stories about that, drink the whiskey, and then go off and watch Man City against Arsenal. Okay, so once we were playing Watford, and Watford had a player called Micah Hyde. And before the game, I was in my little announcer's box, and a guy came in and he had a Watford blazer or matchday blazer. So I thought, he's one of the club officials. And he said, oh, this player for Watford, that is pronounced Micah Hyde. It's not Mika, it's Micah Hyde. And I went, oh, thanks, mate. I'm Jeremy, by the way. And he said, yeah, I'm Micah Hyde. It was him. It was the actual player. And before every game, he would go find the announcer and say, that's how my name's pronounced, because if he was being announced or if he scored a goal or substitute or anything, he hated it if they said Mika. And then we had a player actually called Jeremy Aliadier, French guy. And he came from Arsenal. And we had high hopes for this guy. But no one knew how to say his name. And so I said to the press officer, how do I say his name? He went, well, it's Jeremy Adi Ali. Good luck, mate. So I thought, right, okay, I'll ask him. So I went and found him. I went, hello, Jeremy. How do I say your name? And he went, it's Jeremy Aliadieu. And you know how French people, when they talk, they just talk so quickly. You think you could speak French, but they just go, I said, Jeremy Aliadieu. So anyway, I worked it out. It was Jeremy Ali Adi Air. And I kept saying in my head, Ali Adier. And then I made up this little rhyme. He's here, he's there, he's Ali Adier. And I thought, I'll announce that. When he comes on as a sub, I'll say, he's here, he's there, he's Ali Adier. And I could see him warming up and he was coming on. And I had my microphone in my hand, ready to announce him. And I was in my head, he's here, he's there, he's Ali Adier. He's here, he's there, he's Ali Adier. And then I panicked. And that's what I actually said. Instead of saying his name, I said, coming on for West Ham, he's here, he's there, he's Ali Adier. And everyone went, hey. And I thought, this is quite good, actually. Maybe I'll become a cult hero and Sky Sports will pick up on it and Gary Lineker will mention it on Match of the Day. And every time I'll do it. But actually, he turned out to be rubbish. And almost immediately, went on loan to Wolverhampton Wanderers. So not the best thing there. Best chant I ever heard at West Ham, I think, was when we played Chelsea once, and Jose Mourinho was the manager of Chelsea, and he had this immaculate coat on, very stylish Italian coat. And the West Ham fans sang, "Your coat's from Matalan, your coat's from Matalan, your coat's from Matalan, your coat's from Matalan." It's Verdi's Rigoletto, isn't it? I'm sure you know. Usually we'd sing Paolo Di Canio to that, but "Your coat's from Matalan" worked quite well. And I also quite liked when Eric Cantona used to play for Leeds, and then he got sold to Manchester United for loads of money. And when Leeds turned up to play West Ham, the fans were singing "Où est Cantona," see "Où est Cantona," which is a parody of "Où are Cantona," which was the song. So it was very good because a bit of French involved. You know, it's quite intellectual. I quite liked that one. And I also quite like it in sport with the rivalry and the pettiness and the perception that referees are biased against your team. I love that. And we used to have a tea lady at West Ham called Betty, and Betty was brilliant. And she must have been in her 80s, and she used to bring me my tea and biscuits, and she would always tell me how the players were and if Paolo Di Canio was smiling and she thought he might score and everything. And she got on with everyone, and her and her husband in like the 60s used to organize the away travel on the coaches for the away supporters. And then her husband had died years ago, and she'd stayed with West Ham, just worked as a tea lady on the Saturday, and she loved everyone at the club. But the one person she could not stand was Graham Poll, the referee. Now, I couldn't stand Graham Poll, the referee, not just because he was a referee, because a lot of them were lovely. But one time, when he was the fourth official, so what happens when you're the fourth official? You've got the referee on the pitch, you've got the two linesmen who are really cool assistant referees, but I still call them linesmen. And then you've got the fourth official, and he's the one that holds up the board with the number saying about the substitution. And when they hold up the board, I'll use my Kindle here as like a board. Hold it up like that. And it would say the number of the player coming on and the player coming off. Hold it up like that. And you're meant to hold it like that and then pivot. That's the word we use in lockdown, isn't it? Pivot. Turn like that so everyone could see in the ground. Now, I was in a box right in that corner over there. And so I needed Graham Poll to turn and show it to me like that. He just held it like that. He did not pivot. And I thought, I can't see who's coming on. You know, it was for the other team. So it wasn't a player I recognized. I couldn't see his number because he was facing me. And he was just holding it like that. So over the PA system, I said, "Sorry, could you just turn that slightly to your right so I can see the crowd?" I was being a bit cheeky. Knew who the Graham Poll put it, the fourth official put it in his match report that I'd said that. You know, clearly it was his fault because he hadn't done the pivot. But anyway, so in football terms, he mugged me. Anyway, so I didn't like him either. Penalties, and so Betty exerted the worst punishment ever that she could give to a referee. She never gave him any chocolate digestives because she knew they were his favorites. And she said to me one time, "He loves those chocolate because he always put some out for him. But whenever he comes, I give him the plain digestives. I give all the others chocolate, but I always say to him, 'Oh, I'm ever so sorry, Graham, we're out of chocolate this time.'" And it was just her little way of getting it back. And I thought, it's just perfect, isn't it? You've got this idea that this guy's not helping you out. And so you just take away the chocolate off his digestives, almost like scraping them off. Marvelous. So well done, Betty. She's long since dead now, but marvelous, marvelous woman. Right, I need to get off to watch Manchester. Oh, I've got time for one more. Manchester City against Arsenal. Let me just do one more then. Should we ever change your background? Because I know how to change backgrounds now. This is quite exciting. Let's just have, it'll still be a football ground probably. Let's just put that up. Yeah, so that's where I used to sit when I was the announcer at West Ham. So you see the seats at the front. That's where so there's a real hierarchy. So the players, the coach and the assistant coach and his team would sit on the front row. Then the players might be padded airline behind that white wall before the next white wall. There you'd have the club doctor, the sports scientist, the groundsman would be in right in the back row, and I would be in the second row of that second tier. If I move my head, you're actually going to see me from a few years ago. Look, here I am. Here's me. Look, I've even got a bit of hair, look, with my tie on. And I sat by the tunnel so that I could talk down to the fourth official and find out about holding the ball up. So this was years after the Graham Poll incident. I wasn't having any of that anymore because now I could just look down that tunnel bit. What was I going to tell you about? One more story. Oh, right, one more story. Okay, so West Ham played at the Millennium Stadium in Cardiff against Preston. This was in the mid-noughties, about 2006. And we needed to beat Preston. Whoever won that game got promoted to the Premier League. And so the announcers of West Ham and Preston were invited onto the pitch before the game to G up our section of the crowd. So for me, my big job was to get the West Ham fans singing the classic "I'm Forever Blowing Bubbles." So I walked onto the pitch with my microphone with the two West Ham mascots of the time, who were Herbie the Hammer and Bubbles the Bear. So Herbie the Hammer, because of West Ham's heritage as the Thames Ironworks FC, founded in 1895. They were the ships, the people that put the riveting, the iron cladding on ships. It was the Thames Ironworks. And so that's why you got the crossed hammers. People think it's because of West Ham, but it's the crossed hammers from the riveting irons. And that's why real West Ham fans like me call us the Irons rather than the Hammers. Anyway, so we had Herbie the Hammer as one of the mascots. And then because he was deemed to be a little bit scary for the younger supporters, we had Bubbles the Bear because of the song "I'm Forever Blowing Bubbles" that the team have always run out to since the 20s. And Bubbles the Bear is just a lovely, cuddly, furry bear. But both of them, crucially, have very big feet because, you know, they're grown people inside these furry costumes. So I walked out onto the pitch at the Millennium Stadium, ready to get the fans singing, with Herbie on one side, Bubbles on the other. And this Welsh steward came up to me and he said, "Right, you can come on, but they can't, not with those big feet." And he sent them off. He sent Herbie the Hammer and Bubbles the Bear off. And I went out on my own, feeling very vulnerable without my two big furry bodyguards. And thinking about it, it was wrong, wasn't it? Because if you've got big feet, it would spread out the pressure on the, you know, obviously the Cardiff pitch was very special and been prepared specially for this big final. But if you've got big feet, it spreads your weight out. So, you know, it's not be like having stilettos on where it's all focused onto a tiny bit that would. But I didn't think of that at the time. And I went on my own and had to get the crowd going. But the mascots then trooped off like that. And the fans gave this poor old steward a lot of stick. Right, that's I think that's about it. Next week I will have guests again. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble. I hope you enjoyed. That was quite nice, wasn't it? Just me. I'm not sure do we need the guests, do we? I'm not sure we do. I liked it better because there's no egos apart from mine, and that's massive. So anyway, same time next week, 8 p.m. UK time, after dinner show with me, Jeremy. It's just lucky that's my name, isn't it? The after dinner show with Jeremy Nicholas, because no one else could do it. Right, we'll say goodbye to you on YouTube. I'm off to watch the football, and don't forget to subscribe. I'm trying to become a YouTube sensation, and I've noticed the YouTubers, the kids call themselves, they always say, "Oh, don't forget to subscribe," and they always point down here, and I imagine something's meant to come up. But I'm doing this live. How's that going to happen? It's not. Okay, see you next week. Take care.